Welcome back to Delta Hands. Kelly Scott Kelley has explored and studied many techniques and perspectives in artistic expression. She has returned to her hometown, Baton Rouge, to teach at LSU and create very original artwork.
My art is absolutely intertwined with my life. And if I'm not, I wouldn't encourage anyone to be an artist because I think it's really tough. I think you have to really love it. You have to be really passionate about it. And for me, I do it because I can't not do it. You know, if I'm not making art, then I feel like something's missing. And that has never changed for me. I love the process and being involved in just the really meditative kind of process of actually making them. For me, a big part of it is just sort of daydreaming and fantasizing and doing little sketches, and I love that part of it. I spend a lot of time in the library poring over books and finding images, like this group that I'm working on now with birds. I spend a lot of time in the library getting books on birds, all different kinds of images of birds from really diverse sources. And that informs me, and it just makes me more excited about life and the diversity of life and our history as human beings and our connection with animals, in this case with this work. I think because I have a diverse background, being a printmaker and then a sculptor, and then came to painting, and drawing was always a constant through all of those things. I think that's why I was so attracted to printmaking. That as a painter, I consider myself, I guess, a painter now. I combine a lot of different materials in my painting, and the surfaces are very tactile and physical, which I think of the paintings often as objects, like you would a sculpture. For example, in my drawings and paintings, the thing that's the same in both of those is before beginning to paint or draw on the surface, I completely cover the surface that's going to be painted or drawn upon with old letters that I've collected over the years since I was in middle school. And some of them are letters from old boyfriends or friends I don't know anymore, and I use the originals, and it's a way of recycling them and not having to throw them away because I feel strange about throwing them away. And some of them that are from my grandfather, who's no longer living, I make Xeroxes, but I cover the surfaces with these letters, and then I gesso over the surface so that it's sealed in. And being archival about what I do is very important as much as possible. So they're really well sealed into the surface, and I use archival materials. And then I begin the paintings on top of that. And sometimes, especially in the earlier paintings of this body of work, you could actually see the letters underneath. And sometimes you could read parts, or they'd become just a pattern underneath, or they'd feel like some kind of faded memory and this give them nostalgic kind of feeling. In the more recent work, you can't see the letters, but they create a texture there. And for me, I know that they're under the surface. And then my paintings, I paint with both acrylics and oils. And I usually do acrylics for my underpainting because it dries quickly, and I like to do a lot of dry on dry techniques. And then I use oils because oils are very lush and buttery and painterly, and you can move it around and blend, and I use oils on a lot of things that need to be treated that way. So I combine a lot of different materials. Many of, especially the large scale canvases, are free hanging. They're not stretched on a frame. And I do that for several reasons. One is, for me, the tradition of painting is a very male tradition. And something about having them not stretched tight around a frame and having them loose around the edges makes me think more about fabric or quilt or something that might be considered women's work. And the edges are a little bit irregular. That's one of the reasons that I do it. And for the newer paintings, I am putting them onto a frame, but I'm nailing them onto the front surface so that you still see the edge of the canvas and it's a little bit irregular. And again, I think that makes the paintings more object-like because the edges become part of it, and especially the tiny ones I think of as objects, the way the paintings hang on the wall, there's a shadow that sometimes casts underneath them, and because of the irregular edges, they seem more object-like. I don't expect the viewer to see what I've personally put into the work. I hope that each person comes with their own experiences and that it touches that somehow an image will touch a chord. I think a lot of the images I don't understand them fully. The ideas come to me, the images are interesting to me, the juxtaposition between one thing and another that you don't normally see together, and it's kind of jarring and makes me feel something. And part of the fascination for me is I don't quite understand, or the fact that a lot of people find my work disturbing. That's not intentional, but I think that I go to my work with everything that I experience as a human, the things that are going on in our world, and it's there. And so I just hope that people will see the work and it'll touch a chord. Not necessarily that they'll say, oh, I'm not going to eat meat anymore, or, you know, it's not that direct of a kind of message, but just to get people to think and feel something that might make them go away, and that it'll stay with them, or that they'll have an experience that'll make them feel something. That's my hope, the kind of relationship that I hope that the viewer has to the work. And often things that people tell me they see in the work, those meanings become part of the fabric of the work for me, and I see that meaning in the work after that. They don't have set meanings for me, and so when someone sees something, they tell me about it, often that will become part of the meaning in it for me.
Just ahead on Delta Hands, we meet the amazing Lynn Emery.